So far we've talked about some types of data and how they work. So what we're going to look at right now is effective surveys and questionnaires, which is basically a way to collect data. So you need to be able to ask questions and gain some information that you need from a population. Okay? So just to get started, okay, a questionnaire is something like this. Okay, this is just something I printed out. It's a set of questions that somebody has written in order to gain some knowledge about a particular topic. Okay, so in this one, it's getting dirty with shampoo surveys. So basically, they're asking questions about shampoos and stores that you buy them at, and what you use. Okay, so this is just an example of a questionnaire to get you started. So, for example, this question says, which of the following brands have you used? So please check all that apply. So you're supposed to check off as many things as you can if you've used that product before. That's just an example of a questionnaire. So you might design these to gather information about, like this one is shampoo, types of food people like, where people go. There's a multiple set of reasons for why you want to gain information from people. Okay? So effective surveys are designed with the purpose of generating accurate. Okay? So you want accurate and reliable information. Okay? So accurate means it's true about the population, and reliable means that if you were to do this over and over again, okay, you would continue to get the same information. You want to make sure the respondents are comfortable answering the questions posed. In other words, you don't want to ask anything too personal or too compromising. You want to make sure they're comfortable answering your questions. So we're going to talk about 3 principles, okay, for proper surveying that should be followed. So if you're going to write a questionnaire or give out a survey, these are things that should be followed. Okay. The first is you need to inform the participants. So whoever you are giving the survey to, they need to know why you're doing it, okay, and have enough information that they feel comfortable answering questions. So you should have an introduction to your survey. So an introduction should be short, easy to read, and it should always provide the intention or the purpose of the survey. Okay? So participants must be informed of who will be seeing the results. If it's only going to be seen by one organization or one person, they need to be told that, okay? Because that way they won't be worried about this information traveling, okay, getting into the wrong hands, etc. So names of participants and personal information should always be kept anonymous where necessary. And in general, it should be kept confidential. Again, this all varies depending on the kinds of questions you're asking people. If you're asking people for their favorite food, it's a little less important to be really confidential than it would be if you're asking them personal questions about, okay, like maybe medical history and stuff like that. Okay? So this needs to happen at the very start of the survey. Okay? So the second principle is make sure you know how to write good questions. And we're going to talk about what that means and what those look like. You need to write good questions. Okay? They need to be clear, okay? Clear questions. So in other words, they need to be easy to understand and providing enough time. Okay, if people feel rushed, okay, then they won't be as likely to answer honestly. So we want participants to be honest with their answers. Okay. So in multiple choice questions, include answers such as, so at the end of the question, you might want to include a space where they can select other or give another example, or none of the above. So everyone should be able to fit on a list. So they should have an option that is not included on the list. So for example, if you look back at the survey I showed you, okay, at the end of each one they've left a space for if other, please specify. So tell us, if we didn't include your answer, you need to write it here. And that way everybody has a space. If you say, which shampoos do you use, and you only give 3 options, then you're definitely going to get some false data because not everyone is going to fall within those 3 options. Okay. So rating scales should be clear and it should be a complete set. So this includes situations of, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, how do you ... Okay. Rating scales also include your, how do you feel about this class? Do you feel good, excellent, satisfactory? It needs to have a complete set of ratings. Okay, so everybody has a space to answer. Do not ask too many questions. Or irrelevant questions. Okay, so if you're asking too many questions, people are more likely to rush through them to get them done, and keep your questions to the point. Okay, you want to gain information from these questions, and so if you're asking questions that aren't really necessary, then that's just going to take time out from whoever's answering them. Ask more difficult or sensitive questions near the end of the survey. Okay? So once they have a sense of, oh, you've asked me all of these questions, then you'll want to leave the personal ones till the end, if you have to ask them at all. Okay? So if you don't have to ask personal questions, then it's always better to err on the side of making them feel comfortable. Okay? So it's all about making the person you're asking feel comfortable. Okay. So the last one is to avoid bias. And this one's very important. Okay. So sampling bias is an unwanted influence on a sample that prevents it from being representative . Representative of a population. Okay. I've included a video on some different sampling methods that you can use, but basically what we want to do is select people that represent the population you're talking about. And there's going to be more information on that later. Okay. So choose a sample which is representative of the population. So that's the same thing again. We're going to avoid using leading or loaded questions. Okay. This includes wording that leads to a particular answer, or not providing enough information, using your own tone in the question, anything that might make the person answer in a particular way. We want to avoid that. Okay. Pose questions that are simple, okay, easy to understand. This will hopefully avoid people who don't understand the question and therefore end up answering a wrong question, okay, which could lead to some sort of bias as well. Provide choices that have a natural order. Don't jump around. Say excellent, not good at all, it was great. Okay, you want to present them in order. and use the most appropriate surveying strategy. So surveying strategy is how are you going to collect your data. So you have made your survey now, your questionnaire. Okay, your questionnaire looks great. You have good questions. Now you need to determine how you are going to survey. Okay. So we're going to talk about this in more detail as well. Are you going to see these people personal? Okay, are you going to sit down with them? Are you going to use the internet? Are you going to phone them? Are you going to mail them your questionnaire? So selecting this is actually very important to avoid bias. Okay? So to decide if a survey or questionnaire is appropriate, ask yourself these questions. Is the sample size large enough? Okay, if it's not big enough, then it's not going to be representative of the population. Is the sample representative? Are the survey questions unbiased? And was the collection method appropriate? So those are the major questions you need to keep in mind. To get a little more specific, I've included this is a little bit larger. Okay, this is a do and don't list. Most of this is stuff I've already talked about, but take a second just to glance over it. At some point soon, you will have to write your own questionnaire, your own survey.